What's up, guys? I know it's been a long time since I've done a haircut tutorial, but I've got one for you today. I pulled it out of my film roll on my phone. I've had this footage for a little while. Decided to edit it and get it out for you guys. Today I'm just doing like a classic side part comb over with a fade. Pretty common haircut that you'll see on most guys nowadays. We're going in on the sides after I section the top off. We're going in with a number 2 guard, taking that up to the parietal ridge and coming right off the head, and just going to debulk around the head, and then we'll get into the other fade steps. Very important, as I've mentioned in most of my tutorials, but when using clippers, make sure to come off the head and not round into the top. Any blending can be done after the fact, but you don't want to cut too much off into the top portion of the head. So going through, and after we debulk with the number 2, we're going to get into our bald guideline, which we will use our trimmers for. When making your bald guideline, you definitely want to follow a shape, and this is going to be kind of dropped in the back, but I'm kind of following the kind of where the parietal ridge, where I cut up to the parietal ridge, I'm following that kind of shape that the head creates for you. If you pay attention to that, you can kind of run that line parallel to that, and it's going to help you have an overall better shape with your haircut. Very important to not rush this step if you're new. Obviously, if you've been doing this a while, you can probably get through this portion pretty quick, but just making clean lines and following a shape that makes sense, and putting the ball guideline in is really going to be determined on where the client wants it. If they want a high fade, you're going to make that line a little higher. If they want a low fade, you'll make it lower. If they want it dropped in the back. So a lot of times the barber can help the client determine that. I would say majority of the fades I do are mid fade. So depending on the length from like the ear to the parietal ridge, I'll determine what the mid length would be. Now, after we got the ball guideline in, I'm going in now with my clippers open with no guard. And we're going to make a 1/2 inch to 1 inch guideline. If you want it a little bit spread out, you want to go with 1 inch guideline. If you want it more compressed, maybe 1/2 inch. These are things that the more you do it, the more you're going to get comfortable with what you want to put in, and what works for you. I say the best thing to do is just do a lot of fades and practice a lot of fades, because the more that you do it, it just becomes second nature to you. I've been fading for 4 years now, and I'm still learning new stuff every day, but I feel like I've gotten into a more comfortable flow of my fades and faster with it as well. So if you're starting out, don't be discouraged. Just keep pressing forward. I'm going to go ahead and blend that bottom line out. Some people put all the guidelines in first and then blend out. I'm just going to go ahead and blend this out. So what I do is I start with it open, and then I close the guard. I close the clipper halfway, go midway into that guideline, knocking that line out, and then fully closing the clipper to get that ball guideline completely knocked out. And if it's still not knocked out, you can go back with your trimmers and kind of use the edge of it, kind of tapping into a couple of those darker areas. it's going to be different on every client's head. Everyone has different hair, so you have to pay attention to that. And if something's not coming out, drop the clipper lower, close it. If it still doesn't come out, go to the trimmers. Next, we're going to get into the one guard, and we're going to have that open, making my next guideline. Same thing applies, 1/2 inch to 1 inch, depending on how compressed or how stretched out you want that fade to be. But the most important thing is to make them clean, because the cleaner your guidelines are, the cleaner the gradient of the fade is going to be, because you're having a consistent shape and it's easier to see where you're at, see where to knock out stuff. Also, this is another tip, but you see me using it on the beard as well. Whatever guard I have on, I typically like to try to go ahead and use that wherever it's needed, so I don't have to keep coming back to certain guard numbers. So what I'm doing there is basically doing the reverse on the top of the beard to fade that in. But once I have my one open guideline, then I'm going to come in with my half guard midway, half opened, and then I'm going to just tap on that line that's under it, and then I'll fully close it to fully get it out. Another important tip is to use your corners at times. There's going to be darker spots here or there in someone's fade, and you can use the corners to try to kind of buffer some of those out. And it's a great way to not dig in too much to where you create another line. If it's just one little area, you don't necessarily need to use the whole of the blade. You can just kind of tap it with the corners. And the main thing is to get through the fade process. You're going to see little areas that you can go back to and kind of detail, but don't spend too much time earlier on trying to get every little dark spot out, because you're just going to end up wasting time. Get through the fade steps first, and if there's any little thing at the end, you can always go back and detail with your corner of the blade, or even using point cutting with the shears. So we're going to go through and knock as much as that we can out with the half guard. And the half guards are just game changers. If you have just a typical little Walmart clipper set, you might not have the half guards with it. I would suggest getting some, because they're really going to make it a lot easier to fade. I'm talking about the half guard and the 1.5 guard. So now, after I've faded out that line, I'm going in with my 1.5 guard, because the highest guard we've used thus far is the number 2 guard when we were debulking. So we're going to take the 1.5 guard, we're going to go up to the 2 that we put in earlier, and I have it open initially, and then I close it little by little just to knock that line out under it. And you should start to see that blend. Again, once I said before, there's going to be some dips and crevices that are going to have little darker spots in it, and you're going to have to just think on your feet, and you're going to have to put on another guard, a lower guard, or use your corners and try to tap into some of those dark areas. Use your eyes and what you know it to need to look like, and then act accordingly. And this is stuff that you'll get as you keep doing it, as you keep seeing fades, and as you keep practicing. Now I'm going to blend that parietal ridge area where we left some weight, and we're using the clipper over comb method, basically just pulling the comb through, and anything that's in excess coming out over the shape that we're trying to make, I'm going to just hit that side swiping with the clipper no guard closed. And you can do this many different ways. You can use your thinning shears, you can use just your regular shears. I find the clipper over comb method to be quick and efficient. So I'm focusing on the shape. I'm putting the comb in as I'm creating the shape, and just tapping anything that's in excess over it, and you'll see it kind of blend out there. And I'll probably go back at the end once I've finalized cutting the top, and I'm going to just detail any little dark areas that I see, just to make sure that the fade is looking really, really nice. Everyone's head is different, everyone's hair is different, so you see all these people on Instagram that have these just Photoshop looking fades. Don't pay attention too much to that and compare yourself too much to that, because you're going to do fades, you're going to follow the steps, and then you're going to come through it, and it's still just going to have some crevices or some peaks or valleys. You just do the best you can and make it as gradient as you can, but don't overthink it, because a lot of times if you overthink it and you do too much, you're going to end up ruining it. So I'm at the portion of cutting the top, basically using a travel guide starting at the front. I picked the hair up and pulled it straight up and created my initial guide of the length that I want, and then I'm just going to work my way back, pulling the previous guide into the next section, pulling it up, and cutting anything that is in excess of that. Important to note when you're doing a side part comb over, whatever side your part is on, when you pull that hair up that's touching that part, you want to keep that square, and you don't want to round that into that side of the head, because you're creating a side part, so you want that weight to fall over on the other side. So I'm just going to work my way back, just using the guides. Really easy method of cutting the top. And as I come back, I'm going to not go over the crown portion, just going up until the crown area, and then I'll just keep taking sections. I'll come over a little bit to the other side, and I will round it a little bit into this right side of his head, because that's where he's coming over into, and we don't want to leave too much weight there. So as you can see, I'm going to pull everything over, just clipping anything that's in excess that's not following that shape, and then I'll fully come over to the round of the head, take diagonal 90 degree sections, and vertical 90 degree sections, and I'm going to clip anything that is in excess. I'll do that to the back of the head as well, and that'll be pretty much it for the side part comb over shear work. If this is your first time cutting hair or this style, just take your time. Don't be in a rush. Hopefully you're cutting a friend or someone that's allowing you to practice, and just take your time, and pause this video and watch back certain sections if you need to, just to kind of see what I'm doing, and then implement it. The more that you do, the better you'll get. It's just how it is. Practice makes perfect. Even though there's no perfect haircut, it will make you better. And more consistent you are in practicing and trying to learn as much as you can, you're going to see that 2 years goes by and you're in a way better spot than you were 2 years prior. When I started out, I did a lot of bad haircuts just trying to practice, and just kept going with it, and kept trying to get better. If I did a bad haircut once, I would try to analyze what I did wrong, and I would go back and try it again. Here I'm just kind of cross-checking, so I'm going the opposite direction, horizontal, and just picking up sections and seeing if there's anything that is not matching up and snipping that. When you're doing the traveling guide, you're going to miss a couple little spots, so this cross-checking is going to allow for the final look to look a lot cleaner and to not have, lines in the head. So that's an important thing to do when you're using the shears. Always be going back over your work, cross-checking, and it'll be a cleaner outcome. Once I finish the top, I'm going to go ahead and blow dry through the hair. I'm using a rolling brush to get that kind of pomp at the front, blowing the air at the lifted hair, and I'm going to create a nice, clean side part comb over. Just as important as cutting techniques, it is really important to learn and hone in on your styling techniques. You might be able to cut the hair well, but if you can't style it, then the client is left with an unfinished product. We're going to put some paste in it using some just light matte cream, and then we're going to fully style it out by combing it in the shape that we want. And there we go, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed this video and hope you found it helpful. I'll catch you next time.